You know what nobody tells you about winning? The moment you actually start becoming the man you've been talking about becoming, everything around you gets uncomfortable. Not just for you. For everyone watching. Especially her. You finally stop making excuses. You're hitting the gym before the sun comes up. Your back is straighter. Your voice doesn't shake when you speak anymore. You stopped explaining yourself to people who don't deserve explanations. Your wardrobe looks intentional now. Your mind is locked on something bigger than distractions. And right when you start feeling that momentum, something strange happens in your relationship. She's looking at you longer than usual, asking questions she never asked before, going quiet at random moments, getting irritated over nothing, picking small fights that don't make sense. And you're standing there trying to figure out why your progress is creating problems. Why getting better is making things worse at home. Here's what's actually going on beneath the surface. When you evolve, you rewrite the invisible contract. Every relationship has unspoken rules. Ways you show up. Ways she shows up. Patterns that feel safe because they're predictable. But the second you start transforming, you tear up that old contract without warning. You become someone she has to relearn. And relearning someone you thought you knew creates fear. If she once believed you needed her more than she needed you, your evolution challenges that belief. Not intentionally. Just naturally. You're not chasing her validation like before. You're not waiting by your phone. You're not rearranging your life around her schedule. Your energy is going somewhere else now. Somewhere purposeful. And that shift makes her feel like she's losing ground she didn't even know she was standing on. She was comfortable when you were predictable. She knew how to get a reaction. She knew what would make you apologize. She knew where she stood because you always told her. But now there's mystery. Now there's distance she can't explain. Now there's a version of you that doesn't fold under pressure. And pressure is coming because she's testing whether this new man is permanent or temporary. Your rise changes everything without you saying a word. It shifts power dynamics you didn't even realize existed. It forces her to wonder if she still fits in this new chapter you're writing. And that wondering creates anxiety. Not because she's against your growth. Because growth means change. And change means uncertainty. And uncertainty feels dangerous when you've built comfort on someone staying exactly who they were. This isn't about ego. This is about what happens when one person starts moving and the other person feels the ground shift beneath them. There's a calculation happening in her mind that she'll never admit out loud. The moment you start rising, her brain starts running numbers. She's measuring your old value against your new value. She's comparing who you were to who you're becoming. And that comparison creates conclusions she doesn't want to face. When you were average, she felt safe. When you were stuck, she felt secure. Not because she wanted you broken. Because your limitations meant you weren't going anywhere. You weren't a flight risk. You weren't attracting attention from other women. You were hers by default because your options were limited. But now those options are expanding. And expanding options create fear. She's watching you get stronger and wondering who else is watching. She's noticing your confidence grow and imagining who else notices. She's seeing you dress sharper and thinking about the eyes that follow you now. These thoughts don't come from jealousy alone. They come from awareness. Awareness that the man she locked down is becoming someone harder to keep locked down. Your improvement raises a question she can't escape. Does he still need me? That question haunts her more than she'll ever say. Because need was her leverage. Need was her security blanket. Need meant you weren't leaving no matter what. But a man who validates himself needs differently. A man with momentum requires differently. And requirement feels less certain than desperation ever did. She's recalculating her position in your life every single day now. Every gym session. Every confident decision. Every time you choose discipline over comfort. She's watching and wondering where she ranks in your priorities. Before she was the center. Now she's competing with your vision. And visions don't argue back. Visions don't create drama. Visions just pull you forward whether she comes along or not. This isn't insecurity. This is mathematics. You became more valuable. Value attracts attention. Attention creates competition. Competition creates anxiety. She's running this equation whether she realizes it or not. Her nervous energy isn't manipulation. It's calculation happening beneath consciousness. She's trying to figure out if she's still enough for the man you're turning into. The ground rules shifted the moment you decided to become somebody. She signed up for one man and now she's watching another emerge. That emergence forces adaptation. She has to find her footing again. She has to prove her worth again. She has to earn her place again. And earning feels uncomfortable when keeping used to feel guaranteed. Your evolution didn't just change you. It changed every assumption she made about the relationship. Every expectation she built. Every future she imagined. Now she's rebuilding those pictures with a different version of you in them. And rebuilding takes energy. Rebuilding takes adjustment. Rebuilding takes facing truths she buried when you were standing still. This is the trap that catches almost every man who starts improving. The second they feel her discomfort, they retreat. They water down their discipline. They cancel gym sessions to prove availability. They soften their edge to keep peace. They shrink themselves back to a size that doesn't threaten her comfort zone. And just like that, they destroy everything they built. 1 week of apologizing for growth erases months of progress. Not physical progress. Mental progress. The internal shift that made everything possible gets reversed the moment you start seeking permission to be better. You cannot explain your evolution into acceptance. You cannot convince her with words that your transformation is safe. Words mean nothing when energy speaks louder. She doesn't need your reassurance. She needs to witness your consistency. She needs to see you remain steady when she pushes back. She needs proof that this version isn't negotiable. Most men panic when tension rises. They interpret her distance as rejection. They read her questions as accusations. They feel her anxiety and assume something is wrong with their progress. So they offer explanations nobody asked for. They promise nothing will change between them. They practically beg for approval to keep becoming themselves. And begging kills attraction faster than anything. She doesn't want you to explain why you're going to the gym. She wants to see that you're going regardless of her mood. She doesn't need breakdowns of your goals and ambitions. She needs evidence that those ambitions don't crumble when she tests them. Your actions teach her more than your justifications ever could. Here's what really happens when you shrink. She loses respect before she even realizes it. The man who folds under emotional pressure isn't safe. He's just controllable. And controllable men don't inspire devotion. They inspire management. She'll keep you around, but she'll never fully surrender to someone she can manipulate with discomfort. Your job isn't making her feel comfortable with your growth. Your job is growing so consistently that comfort finds her naturally. Time creates trust. Repetition creates reliability. When she sees month after month that your discipline doesn't fade, her nervous system starts relaxing around the new you. But that only works if you survive the initial friction without compromising yourself. The early stages of transformation always create resistance. From her. From friends. From family. Everyone who knew the old you has expectations based on that version. Breaking those expectations feels like betrayal to them, even though it's liberation for you. Stand firm anyway. Let them adjust on their own timeline. Your momentum cannot pause for anyone's emotional processing. Either they catch up or they get left observing from a distance. Harsh truth, but necessary truth. The man you're becoming requires protection from the man everyone wants you to remain. After the initial tension settles, something else emerges. She starts probing your foundation. Not with obvious attacks. With subtle pressure designed to reveal cracks. A dismissive comment about your routine. A sarcastic remark about your new habits. A small criticism wrapped in humor that stings more than it should. This is measurement happening in real time. She's pressing against your walls to see if they hold. She's checking whether this transformation runs deep or sits shallow on the surface. Every confident man she's ever known got tested before he got trusted. You're no exception. Her jabs aren't meant to wound you permanently. They're meant to expose weakness temporarily. If your confidence shatters from one sideways comment, it was never confidence. It was performance waiting to collapse. Real foundation doesn't crack under minor pressure. Real foundation absorbs impact and remains unmoved. Watch how she escalates when you don't react. First come the playful digs. Then the pointed observations. Then the direct challenges about who you think you're becoming. Each level tests a deeper layer of your conviction. Pass one test and another appears. Fail one test and she files that information away forever. She's not being cruel. She's being strategic without knowing it. Women test men instinctively because safety requires verification. A man who crumbles at words will crumble under real pressure. A man who stays composed during emotional turbulence becomes trustworthy during actual storms. Your response matters more than her provocation. Getting defensive signals insecurity lives beneath the surface. Over-explaining signals you need her approval to continue. Attacking back signals emotional immaturity that hasn't been resolved. But staying calm while acknowledging truth without apology signals something different entirely. It signals depth she can rely on. She might say you're not the same person anymore. Agree without shame. You're not. That's the point. She might accuse you of caring more about yourself now. Acknowledge it simply. Self-investment isn't selfishness. She might suggest your priorities shifted away from her. Let her feel that observation without rushing to correct it. Presence means more than promises. Sometimes she'll increase affection during this phase. Random compliments. Unexpected attention. Physical closeness that wasn't there before. This isn't contradiction. This is another form of testing. She's measuring whether validation changes your trajectory. Whether sweetness softens your discipline. Whether attention pulls you back into old patterns. Stay the course regardless of what she offers. Resistance or affection both serve the same purpose. Both reveal whether your transformation depends on external feedback. The man who stays steady through criticism and praise alike demonstrates something rare. He demonstrates self-sourced direction that nothing external controls. That unshakable quality transforms nervousness into attraction deeper than surface chemistry ever created. But only after she's exhausted every test and found no weakness to exploit. Eventually you reach the fork in the road nobody wants to acknowledge. Your growth either brings you closer together or reveals you're growing apart. There's no middle ground when someone starts evolving seriously. Relationships either upgrade or expire. They strengthen under new weight or crack under new pressure. If she decides to match your energy, something exceptional happens. She starts investing in herself differently. Gym membership gets used. Career ambitions resurface. Personal goals get dusted off and pursued. She stops resisting your discipline and starts mirroring it. Conversations deepen because both minds are expanding. Respect multiplies because effort becomes mutual. This is rare but powerful when it happens. Two people rising simultaneously create momentum that pulls them forward together. You're not dragging dead weight. You're building alongside someone who understands the assignment. Attraction transforms from physical chemistry into intellectual admiration. The bond strengthens because it's based on growth instead of dependency. But the other path exists just as often. She stays comfortable while you keep climbing. She maintains old habits while you build new ones. She criticizes your intensity while offering none herself. She mocks your dedication while scrolling endlessly. The gap between your energies widens slowly, then suddenly becomes a canyon neither can cross. You'll feel it before you can name it. Conversations feel hollow. Her complaints sound trivial compared to problems you're solving. Her concerns seem small against visions you're chasing. You're not being arrogant. You're just operating at a different frequency now. And frequencies either match or they create static. Here's where weak men self-sabotage. They slow down to maintain connection. They dim their light to avoid casting shadows on her stagnation. They sacrifice momentum for familiarity. They choose comfortable decline over uncomfortable growth. And every time they make that choice they resent her a little more for not being worth the sacrifice. Strong men make different decisions. They acknowledge the divergence without anger. They recognize misalignment without blame. They understand that outgrowing someone doesn't make either person wrong. It just makes continuation dishonest. They'd rather walk alone than drag someone who refuses to walk with them. Your discipline reveals her complacency without you saying a word. Your ambition highlights her lack of direction through pure contrast. Your focus exposes her distraction just by existing near it. This isn't judgment. This is reality reflecting itself honestly. Some people want that reflection to inspire change. Others want that mirror removed so they can stay comfortable. You can't control which category she falls into. You only control whether you keep moving forward. Pause for someone who won't rise and you both sink slowly. Continue rising alone and you either meet someone at your new altitude or you stand tall in solitude. Both outcomes beat staying small to maintain access to someone who preferred your limitations. Months pass. You haven't slipped. You haven't regressed. You haven't apologized for taking up more space in the world. The gym is non-negotiable now. Your standards don't bend anymore. Your vision stays clear through every distraction thrown your way. And somewhere in that consistency, everything shifts permanently. She stops questioning whether this is real. She stops waiting for you to revert back. She stops testing your foundation because she's watched it hold through seasons of pressure. Consistency doesn't just build trust. It eliminates doubt entirely. When someone witnesses unwavering commitment over extended time, skepticism has nowhere left to hide. The way she looks at you now carries different weight. Less casual observation. More genuine respect. When you speak about future plans, she leans in instead of half listening. When you walk into rooms, she notices how space responds to you differently. Other people defer to you more. Other women glance longer. She's not blind to the shift in how the world treats upgraded versions of men. But here's what most people miss about long-term transformation. Your improvement forces her into self-evaluation she can't avoid. She has to look at herself honestly against the backdrop of your evolution. That examination goes one of two directions without exception. Either it inspires her to level up alongside you or it triggers defensive resentment about the gap forming between you. When she chooses growth, magic happens. She starts reading books again, investing in skills again, caring about health again, setting boundaries again, pursuing dreams she shelved years ago. Your rise gave her permission to want more for herself. Your discipline showed her what's possible with focused effort. The relationship becomes partnership between two people committed to becoming their best versions. That dynamic is unbreakable when both people are climbing. Mutual respect replaces petty arguments. Shared vision replaces meaningless conflict. Admiration replaces taking each other for granted. You push each other higher instead of pulling each other down. Chemistry deepens into something lasting because it's built on evolution instead of entertainment. But when she resists continuously, different reality emerges. She stays stuck while you keep ascending. She criticizes your commitment while maintaining none. She finds problems with your progress while solving none of her own. The distance becomes undeniable. Not hostile. Just honest. You're heading somewhere she refuses to go. This is where self-trust becomes everything. Weak attachment says stay anyway. Strong self-respect says move forward. You didn't build yourself up to shrink back down for someone comfortable with mediocrity. You didn't sacrifice comfort to maintain access to someone who preferred your limitations. Love doesn't require lowering standards. Love asks whether standards align. Over time, her initial nervousness settles into one of two permanent states: pride or pressure. Pride when she feels honored standing beside your rise. Pressure when she feels inadequate watching it from below. You become someone different entirely when improvement becomes identity instead of effort. You're not trying to be disciplined anymore. You just are. You're not forcing confidence. It flows naturally. You're not performing strength for approval. You carry it quietly into every space you occupy. She feels this shift in ways she can't articulate. Your presence has weight now that wasn't there before. When you speak, people listen differently. When you decide, doubt doesn't follow. When pressure comes, you don't flinch like you used to. This isn't arrogance. This is centeredness that only comes from walking through fire without breaking. You also become nearly impossible to manipulate. Not because you're cold or guarded. Because you're grounded. Emotional outbursts don't derail you anymore. Praise doesn't inflate your ego. Criticism doesn't puncture your confidence. You exist in equilibrium that drama can't disturb. And that stability becomes magnetic in ways surface attraction never achieved. She either finds security in your steadiness or feels threatened by your independence. If she's grown alongside you, your strength becomes her safety. She trusts your decisions because she's watched you make better ones consistently. She respects your boundaries because she's seen you enforce them without wavering. She admires your vision because she's witnessed you building it brick by brick. That admiration settles into the space where nervousness used to live. She's no longer anxious about your growth. She's proud of it. She's no longer worried about losing you. She's focused on being worth keeping. The entire dynamic inverts from insecurity to partnership, from dependency to mutual elevation. But if she never adapted, if she stayed comfortable while you transformed, the ending writes itself without drama. No explosive fights. No bitter accusations. Just quiet recognition that you're traveling different directions. You outgrew the relationship not through cruelty but through commitment to becoming someone better. Walking away from misalignment doesn't make you heartless. It makes you honest. Staying small to keep someone comfortable makes you resentful. Living below your potential to maintain access to someone creates silent bitterness that poisons everything eventually. Better to face truth early than live lies comfortably. At the deepest level, her reaction to your rise was always just a mirror, reflecting how solid your foundation actually was. If you wobbled, she sensed weakness. If you stood firm, she felt strength. Improvement was never about impressing her. It was about becoming unshakable regardless of who stays or leaves. The man who rises without apology, without arrogance, without regression changes everything around him. He doesn't just transform his life. He transforms the standard of what he accepts. And when you become that man, nervousness around you either evolves into respect or exits entirely. If this resonated, subscribe. More truth coming.